Hey guys, welcome back to the Nobi Fan Podcast. I'm Ash. Hey guys, welcome back to our podcast. I'm Knicks fan Ash.
Hey guys, welcome to the Spurs Only Podcast.
My mayor's still Muslim. My bagel's still Jewish. The pup's on our side. Knicks in 5!
No.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Slipstream Podcast where we talk about motorsport and racing. I'm Ash.
And I'm Trey.
And as you can see, I'm a big Knicks fan. He's a big Spurs fan. So shifting from basketball into the exciting world of F1, we have a lot to talk about the Monaco Grand Prix that happened this past Sunday.
Oh my gosh. Look, I need therapy after this one. I really need therapy after this one.
It was insane. Yeah. There was practice blunders, qualifying surprises, mid-race blunders, controversial penalties that really turned this race in all different directions.
And on top of that, some of these teams aren't even done arguing their cases in this, I personally like to call it, once-in-a-lifetime weekend event at the Principality of Monte-Carlo. So let us waste no more time, and Ash, you can start us off with a historical review of Monaco as a sports hub.
Yeah, so it's a specifically very infinitely rich hub, and not only do most of the royal family and French diplomats provide the funds to keep the Monaco Grand Prix running annually, but they also throw in some extra cash to make these ceremonies very glitzy and gaudy.
I mean, look, you have these CEOs of oil companies, Fortune 500 supergiants on the yachts, grid girls on the podium with the drivers, some of the royal family members, and you even have live bands and orchestras, world-class conductors who are playing the national anthem of Monaco. And this is all on the streets of Monte-Carlo. There are casinos, mansions, five-star hotels, and the monarch's castle.
So as you can tell, this is one of the most expensive race weekends of all of motorsport, at least fiscally. And that's unfortunately been Monaco's reputation since the mid-2000s, when passing on track became rather reckless and nearly impossible.
I mean, yeah, that's the truth. I mean, since 2009, they introduced lengthier cars, and they took away refueling, and the 2017 regulations made these lengthy cars wider, and we haven't really seen any overtaking action since then.
And don't forget the ground effect, turbo hybrid cars from 2022 that not only made it the cars like 50 kilograms heavier, but pretty much made the whole race a 78 lap parade. Even the pit strategy became obsolete. And Such is going to elaborate on these issues for us, so take that away.
Right, so as we all know, from the hybrid era to the turbo hybrid era, Formula One cars weighed roughly 800 kilograms without a full tank of fuel, and Monaco Grand Prix aside, the reason for this change was because there was an additional weight involved in the complex 1.6-liter V6 turbo hybrid power units compared to their 2.4-liter V8 predecessors. And the Monaco Grand Prix considered this significantly slowed down the cornering speed of these cars and made overtaking, even at the Monaco hairpin and near the entry of the swimming pool chicane, much more difficult than it had any right to be. And multiple outlets have had something to say about this, like, for example, with BBC News, they've said in regards to the new overtake mode of this era's cars, if it is to make a difference and enable drivers to at least get into a position to try and overtake, this is likely to be in combination with an offset in tire degradation. And Redditors like user at RSR123456 from r/Formula 1 made the claim for the event weekend as a whole, you can do it, qualification obviously, but not a race. So many times they were all stuck in a traffic jam or literally stopped at some turns. So it seems like every positive, like the fine margin that these drivers put up in the qualifying sessions and the size reduction of these cars for this year's race in Monte-Carlo, will always be a negative that brings them back to square one. Back to you guys.
Yeah, so what do you think is personally the biggest issue with the Monaco Grand Prix if you had to choose one thing?
I think it's the abundance of chicanes in this race because on average, you should have maybe 2, 3, 4 chicanes per circuit. Having this many in such a cramped space going up, down hills is this is kind of Monaco's specialty with making it very aesthetic, but it's not optimal for racing.
I think it's the change in spec, personally, because overtaking in Monaco is very much possible. But if you can't change the spec in a way that, I don't know, I guess configures itself with a track like Monaco or a track like Singapore, then there's going to be a lack of overtaking because people not only have to work with the engines and the aerodynamics and voice crack and the chassis of the car, but they have to work around the spec and make sure they're not breaking the rules.
So the big highlight to mention from free practice was Isaac Hadjar's crash in FP1. But not because of how it goes back to his inconsistencies at Red Bull thus far, but because how he responded in FP2.
Yep. After what seemed to be his weekend done, he responded by putting himself in the top 5 in FP2 and the top 6 in FP3. So it really does seem like he's getting the groove of things at Red Bull.
And speaking of groove, Ferrari's groove seemed to be just as good because Hamilton and Leclerc finished in the top 3 in every practice session. And Leclerc topped the first one while Hamilton topped the second.
But when push comes to shove, qualifying is where it counts most. So both Aston Martins, Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll finished in the very back row, over 3 seconds off the pace of the top 2. Disappointing again.
Disappointing and then some. And we should really mention how the sole rookie driver, Arvid Lindblad, qualified P13, which is honestly a great showing at a track like this for a rookie like him. But the 2 Williams drivers and Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz would feel far from great after missing out on Q3 by less than half a second.
Speaking of which, the P10 finisher in Liam Lawson and the pole sitter in Kimi Antonelli would be separated by just over 1 second in Q3. That is how fine the margins were in this qualifying session.
And this gives us a little bit of insight into the Q3 run, which Such is going to break down with the other drivers and what the other drivers had on the Italian driver.
Yeah, so this was pretty much Monaco 2023 qualifying relived. You had 4 front-running drivers who all took a provisional pole with sub 112.5 times. So, like, for example, you had Hadjar with a 12.4 lap, Leclerc with a 112.3 lap, Hamilton with a 12.2 lap, and finally Verstappen, who seemed to have pole in his hands with a solid 12.0 lap. But then the WDC leader, Kimi Antonelli, beats this time by 43 milliseconds. So that's the closest margin between pole and P2 in the history of the Monaco Grand Prix period. So just to put it into perspective, the gap between pole sitter Verstappen and P2 position holder Fernando Alonso back in 2023 was 84 milliseconds, and the gap between pole sitter Michael Schumacher and P2 holder Mark Webber back in 2012. So this was F1's most competitive season ever in terms of team performance, which was 80 milliseconds. So not only is Antonelli breaking records like having the most successive wins after his breakout victory and becoming the youngest winner in Monaco in F1 ever, but he is breaking the record of a pole sitter's qualifying margin at a street circuit. Like, can you believe what this kid has pulled off with the right resources in this kind of training? Like, 43 milliseconds, especially for someone as young as him. Like, not even Max Verstappen can do that with people in his age group, and he's like, what, 7 years or so older than him right now?
Yeah, and another mention is how George Russell, who literally opened the season by leading the championship, qualified in P6 with upgrades on the car, and he qualified behind the far more inconsistent Isaac Hadjar. So my question is, what the hell, bro? Really?
I mean, at least they're not, pulling a McLaren where they're on the 4th row of their so-called special 1000th Grand Prix. And, I think Trey has some trivia.
Yeah, so 1000th, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny the way that they were trying to promote themselves as a brand, because you know how both McLarens failed to start the Chinese Grand Prix, DNS for Piastri and DNS for Norris.
Mm-hmm.
That means this is only their 999th race as a team.
Technically,
yes. So they can't even commemorate themselves without being incompetent. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but still, incompetency.
Well, before we crash out any further over the Papaya Bros, let's get into the start of the race. Well, everybody except Max Verstappen.
Oh, should I run it back?
Yes.
I'm gonna run it back. Max's car stalled when he got started with the race. I kid you not. 5 lights out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He tried starting the car, and it just went so slow. He immediately pulled into the pits before the first lap ended, and the team, and I think team principal Laurent Mekies, said that the gears were pretty much broken on the formation lap, so convenience.
No, yeah, and that's so crazy. But what's even crazier is that the strategy team at Williams sucks. Worse than usual. Not only did they have the audacity to pull Albon in for fresher tires when he was lapping far quicker than Sainz, but they swapped the two 1 lap after Albon left the pits. It's like they hired the 2023 Ferrari pit crew.
Yeah, or it's like they hired engineers to build the Haas 2019 VF19. Yeah. And there wasn't a lot of action until Stroll went into the barriers at the end of lap 56. Not his fault, by the way. We'll get into that. But the safety car came out and it caused a ton of chaos.
Yeah, Russell, who had already jumped Hadjar with a brilliant medium to hard compound tire strategy, got jumped back by Hadjar when Mercedes decided to double stack their drivers. And Leclerc came in for a pit stop when he was already equal in pace with Hamilton and dropped behind him for nothing.
And that was another double pit stop, by the way, Ferrari.
Yes.
And if you thought the home hero was not out of trouble by then, no, think again. The safety car pulled in, and right as Antonelli led the rest of the grid, I can't even think straight or speak straight. Leclerc hit the barriers in the final quarter of lap 60, pulling a Stroll, and just like that, he was also out of the Monaco Grand Prix.
And for the second time in 3 races at Monaco, we have a red flag yet again. And at this point, the whole race has turned on its head because penalties are being delivered left and right like free samples.
But yeah, the only penalized driver beforehand was Lewis Hamilton when he sped in the pit lane by cutting a corner on pit entry. And it didn't affect him since, there was a red flag and he jumped Leclerc in the strategy. But now, George Russell, both Alpine drivers, Franco Colapinto and Pierre Gasly, they all got the same punishment, which is really stupid because they also cut the corners.
And they only sped by 0.1 kilometers per hour. And they just crossed the white line without even speeding. So that's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. And Sachin's going to summarize for us how the rest of the Grand Prix went. So take it away, Sachin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, the lights go out for the second race start on lap 67 with 11 more laps to go, and we see all of the grid except for Antonelli and Hamilton on the front row basically get into it with each other, because of course they do. Knowing he had a 5-second time penalty in his hands, Russell held up the grid from third on the reopening lap to gain some from his competitors. Both Hülkenberg and Colapinto crash into Sainz, which takes the Spaniard out of the race. And even though Checo finished in 10th across the line for Cadillac, which at the time scored the team their first ever points in F1, he was still stuck with a post-race drive-through penalty for having pulled forward a row too far at the original start, as quoted by planetf1.com and research. And if you thought that wasn't enough, here's a list of other FIA penalties/investigations. So, number 1, we got a 5-second penalty for Hülkenberg for causing a collision with Sainz that stripped him of his first points by dropping from P9 to P14. Ouch. And a 5-second penalty for Gasly for speeding in the pit lane, which dropped him from a third-place podium position down to 7th. The Alpine team actually submitted an appeal and reviewed it yesterday, which Trey and Ash will break down as we go further. And finally, before they do, I have one more in the form of an investigation for Hadjar and Colapinto for a red flag infringement that he luckily avoided. And I mean, this, as you can tell by a lot of these investigations, there was just a lot of chaos on track, and there was naturally a lot of uproar and pandemonium among the fans, drivers, team stewards, and the sport as a whole, given the fact that, you had the red flag infringement, the fall from grace for Hülkenberg, etc., and this was just quite the uproarious time for fans and the drivers who were involved in the infringements and such, of course. Man, what a season.
Okay, so I think the end of the race, yeah, so Kimi Antonelli wins, Lewis Hamilton in second again, now second in the championship, and Isaac Hadjar was the third place finisher, and I say was because, yeah, I believe it was yesterday that Alpine finally got their complaint submitted, and they I forgot what the word was, but they put him back in third place.
Yes.
So he was finished.
So they robbed Pierre Gasly of his podium. And now we are so glad of this appeal because now we have Pierre back on the podium as he should be.
Yes, for the first time since Brazil 2024, which is way too long.
In other F1 news, apart from the race that was a disaster in itself, we had Kim Kardashian come to her first Grand Prix of officially being Lewis Hamilton's girlfriend. How do you feel about that? There's just a lot of things to unpack here, but I want to know. And Trey's left. Like it was.
I'm back.
Oh my gosh, the off the grid drama was just as bad as on the grid drama, and I want to know your thoughts.
If celebrity status wasn't the only thing that mattered in Formula One up until this point, it is what defines Formula One, I feel like. I'm not dogging on their relationship. I am not dogging the fact that Lewis Hamilton has found love again. And I'm certainly not dogging on Kim Kardashian as a person, kind of. But if F1 has become this disingenuous, then count me out, please.
I personally think that this whole relationship is a PR stunt. And I'm going to comment on Kim Kardashian just because, thoughts of...
Okay, but I've had... Yeah, bring it in. Let's go.
So I'm just going to speak on Kim Kardashian for a second and how she affects Formula One. And I can say this because I'm a woman and she's a woman. If any other man wants to speak about this, they cannot, okay? Because Kim is a woman and we can't have any men dogging on a woman. But I will say that she came underdressed to the Grand Prix in jeans and a bodysuit, and it wasn't the vibe because Monaco's, as we said, infinitely rich, and the abundance of yachts there. Oh my gosh, every yacht that they have present at Monaco can attest to that. So clearly she felt her and her sister Chloe were both there and felt the heat on them. So they went in for a quick costume change, I'll say, and traded their jeans in for a very long evening Gucci gown that I don't really approve of either because that's not the vibe either. I think Alex Albon's girlfriend, the professional golfer Lily, has incredible style. Charles Leclerc's now fiance, Alexandra, also has amazing style, and she should probably look towards them for outfit inspo. And also the fact that Kim Kardashian turned away from a reporter who was trying to ask her and Chloe some questions and ignored him completely, which is not the style/manners of how a WAG is supposed to address reporters in a Grand Prix setting. And you have reporters coming up to WAGs and family and, the drivers all the time. Nobody ignores them. And this is kind of apparent on how paparazzi is treated in America, but it doesn't translate to this setting exactly. So she's catching a lot of heat for ignoring the very famous reporter from Sky Sports, I think. And so I just hope that, she doesn't get much more heat on her, and the next Grand Prix goes much better for her and Hamilton as a PR relationship.
It's not like she's misbehaving in any way, but she's not addressing the crowd.
It's kind of uncomfortable because she kind of sticks out like a sore thumb in this kind of
Yeah. By the way,
It's kind of
the reporter was the one, the only Martin Brundle.
Yes.
Justice for Martin Brundle.
But
yeah.
that is kind of all we have for today. I'm Ash.
And I'm Trey.
And please like, comment, and subscribe. Please give us your opinions on Kim Kardashian down in our comments. And that's all for another summer edition episode. I'll see you later.
See you then.
Bye.